everyone, I'm the Gaming Cat, and I just wanted to say thank you all so much for participating in the Q&A video. It was a lot of fun answering your questions, and I'm glad that you all care enough about me to participate in this, so I hope you enjoy. The first question comes from the old school gamer. Who inspired you to start making YouTube poops? Honestly, it wasn't any one person or pooper, it was actually many people. There was Vexler96, who was the first pooper I got into. There was also Jittery Dragon, who made some of the funniest YTPs I'd ever seen and is still my favorite pooper to this day. There was also Piss Myself Laughing in CS188, whose jokes had some brilliant timing and thought behind them. Mobro Studios and Master of Zoroark's poops are some great masterpieces that still hold up to this day, and go to show the kind of brilliant stuff that's possible with YTP. There's many people who inspired me to take on this hobby, and even more people who keep inspiring me to this day. This one comes from Mother3Fan. How old are you? 18. Funko001100 asks, what do you know about YouTube poops in general? YouTube poops are a series of videos dating back to 2004 that involve taking a source, like a TV show or movie, and heavily editing it with the purpose of making it bizarre or satiric of the original source. There's many people with many different styles of pooping, which are usually defined by how much they lean towards the bizarre or satiric side of YTP. For example, Sin to Tragedy's side would be defined by delving deeply into the bizarre side while going somewhat into the satiric side. My style would be defined by going all the way with the satiric side of YTP and going into the bizarre side very rarely. This next question comes from 13 Mike Star. What is your favorite poop you made? Either Mr. Krabby Krabby avenges Pearl Harbor, or Sammy Classic Sonic Frick proposes to Vladimir Putis. Both poops were a lot of fun to conceive, and they also both raised the bar for what I could do with my YTPs. Interestingly enough, ever since Spingebill, Potrock, and Squishward go to Vietnam, my poops seem to be getting even better with each new one I release. I really hope this trend continues because I'd love to see how good I can get. This question comes from Samwise. What was the first YouTube poop that you've ever seen? I actually don't remember. I was first introduced to YouTube poop when one of my friends decided to show me several at once, but I couldn't remember the names of any of them. That said, the first YouTube poop whose name I remembered was How About a Game of You Must Die by Luke Yalga. This next question comes from Weaslew. Who's that f***it you hosted the Spingebill send-off collab with? I'm not sure. I think it was something with a W, though. Wendell? Walter? Wally. I just remembered that it was Wally. Dark Phantom asks, what YTPer do you hate the most? Well, I can't really say that there are any poopers I legitimately hate, since I can't really hate anyone just for making a video I didn't like. I mean, there are poopers that I hate, but those are more for personal reasons that I don't feel comfortable discussing here. But I assume what you're asking me is, who is the pooper with the videos that you hate the most? The answer to that is whoever it was that made Spingebill and Fag Trick escape Pony Prison with someone. This next question comes to us from the Rubber Poop. Will you please stop making Sammy Classic Sonic fan poops? No! Joe Olson asks, what is your favorite poop of the following sources? CDI, SpongeBob, Team Fortress 2, I Am Mean, Michael Rosen, and Dr. Rabbit. My favorite CDI poop would be Guanum Buys an X-Wing on eBay, my favorite pure SpongeBob poop would be the Spingebill Collection 2, my favorite TF2 poop would be Scout's 3-way date with a decapitated doctor, I haven't seen many I Am Mean poops, my favorite Michael Rosen poop is Michael Rosen Becomes Increasingly Explicit, and I haven't seen many poops with Dr. Rabbit either. This next question comes to us from Reich. Do you watch AMVs? Given that I don't like anime, no. This question comes from Super Snow. What are your thoughts on us losing Santa with teeth? While all poopers have to leave eventually, that doesn't make his absence any less hard. He was one of the great pioneers in both sentence mixing and using SpongeBob as a source, and the mark he's left has gone to show how much he'll be missed. If he's still out there somewhere, I hope he's doing well. This question once again comes from 13 Mike Star. How do you get along with other well-known poopers? Very well, actually. I've been friends with people like Emperor Lemon and Mobro Studios for several months now. It's really cool to think about how the poopers I used to look up to and watch all the videos of are now some of my friends. This is another question that comes to us from Dark Phantom. What do you hate about newbie poopers? Again, I can't really say that I hate anyone just for making a video, but what I don't like about their videos in general is that, since they're just starting off, they don't exactly have their styles or techniques perfected yet. They're also still getting used to their editing software, so the editing isn't as good. It's something that no one can help, not even people like me, so you've gotta at least give them a chance later on. Shadow Person Guy asks, who's the most hypocritical YouTuber you've ever seen? It's a tie between Onision and Lily Pete. Remember what Tom the Shadows said about how Chris Brown often has phony messages about love and positivity on his Twitter, while at the same time being a complete asshole in real life? That's basically Onision. In spite of claiming to have several mental illnesses, he's very ableist and has made really low blows at people with mental conditions before. And given things like his 9/11 fail video, he has no idea what decency means either. And then there's Lily Pete. Oh boy. In spite of being someone who's very supportive of the LGBT community and being against the anti-SJW crowd that's known for getting on the case of anyone who likes being respectful, Lily is just as bad as those she claims to be against. She's incredibly spiteful and hateful to the point where she's even called her own fans idiots multiple times, has outright downplayed self-harm as drama, and just has a nasty attitude overall. Basically, she's what Mr. Enter's hate base thinks Mr. Enter is, an obnoxious malcontent who uses her moral compass as a weapon that she doesn't deserve. Ugh. This next question comes from JS Films. Who are your favorite YouTubers? I'm quite fond of reviewers like JonTron and Cat Icarus, and I'm also a longtime fan of Josh Scorcher. Carbot Animations and Raunchy Animation are my two favorite animators on YouTube, and two Let's Play channels I've been getting into the past year are Game Grumps and Markiplier. This question comes from Mr. Trollinator. What's been the hardest thing for you to accomplish despite being famous on YouTube? Honestly, lately it's been trying to get the motivation to work on my videos. Since my move to college, my whole life has been changed quite a bit, and trying to get accustomed to everything new is hard enough without also trying to work on my videos. With the production of this Q&A though, I'm hoping to get back into the swing of things. Poop on a Stick 481 asks, have you ever thought about a video game YTP? I actually have made one before. I made a Poop of Doom 3 a while ago called Wacky Adventures in Hell. Looking back on it, it was pretty bad. A few of the jokes were still funny, but the pacing was really slow and overall felt kind of awkward. It's kind of because of that video that I haven't made a video game YTP since. A British Panfish asks, have you ever thought about doing animation? Oh god no, I can't animate to save my life. This next question comes from Mr. Pat. Do you like montage parodies? Usually no. They pretty much have the same problem as Spadinner Poops. They rely way too much on the same old tired memes that they never break away from and are way too overblown. Not to mention that they can be really hard to watch and listen to as well. That being said, there is one montage parodier that I do like. Try Mike, for instance. He's a guy who makes Dota 2 montage parodies, and the reason why I actually like him is because 1, he knows how to make funny jokes, and 2, his life does not consist of worshipping Snoop Dogg and air horns while listening to dubstep and eating Mountain Dew and Doritos. So if you happen to be a fan of Dota 2, check out Try Mike, for instance. The Psychedelic Rambler asks, have you ever told your parents about YTP, and how did they react when you told them about your videos? They've known about YTP pretty much ever since I've known about it. They've also for the longest time taken a look at each video of mine before I upload it to make sure it isn't too risque. While they're not into it at all, they still really appreciate the kind of work and effort it takes to make them. This next question comes from my good friend Wally. What was your best experience in YTP so far? Being able to befriend people who have also become big names in the community, like Cartoon Lover and Emperor Lemon. Being able to become big enough to talk with these kinds of people was once only a fantasy for me, and the fact that it's now actually happening is really something. Both Dark Phantom and Kirby No ask, what's the worst YTP you've ever seen? Spingebill, Fag Trick, Mordecai, and Rigby escape pony prison with someone. Not only is the editing horrendous, but all the jokes are incredibly weak as well. I always feel bad for picking on poopers with very little fame, but this one is just awful. This one comes to us from Super Snow. What should we expect from you video-wise? I'll still be making poops, but I'm not really sure what else I want to do at the moment. That said, I have plans for an analysis video about the legacy of StarCraft that I'll probably make sometime in the future. It'll basically be in the style of sequelitis, where I compare the differences between the original and StarCraft 2 and see what works and what doesn't. Do you have any old/original channels? Nope, this is the first channel I ever made. Are you sure you don't want to watch Shark Tale?
Yes.
The Cinematic Gamer asks, now that you're not using SpongeBob anymore, what sources are you going to use? I've currently got plans for a Sammy poop, another one of Zero Punctuation, and one for the Josh Scorcher collab. Other than that, I'm not sure.
Aw, damn it.
This question comes to us from Goop Videos. Why are you so awesome?
Well, I'm glad you asked. You see, it all started back in 1997 when...
My channel Cool asks, have you ever heard of Walrus Guy or Cortez 3000? What do you think of them? I like Cortez's stuff, but I've never seen Walrus Guy's works. This next question comes from Miss Mayer. Do you have a career that you always wanted to do? As in all my life? Well, for the longest time, I really wanted to join the military. I wanted to serve my country while at the same time dealing with injustice. But thanks to my love for my hobby, I realized that what I really want to do is be a filmmaker, and I'm currently at college for it. Muddy Catfish asks, how would you describe your relationship with other big poopers? I get along with them pretty well. I always do my best to offer my point of view on a topic when I can, but I know when to stay silent and let them figure it out themselves. My biggest priority with any kind of human interaction is to just be a nice person. This next question comes to us from Squidward Tentacles. How much IQ do you lose/gain from making your videos?
3012?
This question comes to us once again from Mr. Trollinator. What YTP source do you think has gotten the most publicity on your channel? SpongeBob. Definitely SpongeBob. The Archangel Network asks, what and how was the development of the Spingebill Send-Off collab? One day my friend Wally came along and said that they had a collab that they wanted to make, and asked if I wanted to help host the collab, and I said sure. We then spent the next several weeks looking through entries and deciding which ones would work best and which ones wouldn't. Wally then put all the entries together into the collab we all know and love. This is another question from Mr. Trollinator. Why do your YTPs consist of the same sources such as JonTron, Sammy Classic Sonic Fan, Modern Family, American Dad, etc.? All of my poops are basically expressions of myself, so a lot of the sources I use end up being things I really like. I just like to go with whatever sort of silliness comes to mind when I'm thinking about what kind of jokes to make, and go from there. Miss Mayer asks, which era makes better material for Spingebill poops, pre-movie or post-movie? While pre-movie is definitely used more, there's potential for both as long as the right amount of effort is put into it. This next question comes from a user named Sagios. Would you ever do a poop of a Pixar movie, Smosh the Movie, Gumball, Gravity Falls, Ren and Stimpy, or the Powerpuff Girls? Maybe one of a Pixar movie or the Smosh movie, but I've never seen those other sources, so no. This question comes from Sephiroth Light. When you first started your channel, did you ever think you would grow this much and make a name for yourself in the YTP community? I certainly fantasized about it, but I wasn't sure if it would actually happen, and definitely not at the speed it's currently going. There's not a day that goes by when I don't feel incredibly grateful for all that's happened to me. This question comes from a user named Trey Rivera. Are you still a brony? Yes, but not as much as I used to be. I haven't started on Season 5 yet, nor have I really been able to keep up with what's going on in the community. Maxmillion222 asks, do you prefer Mr. Enter's older or newer videos? While I do like his older stuff, I really admire the steps he's taking to improve himself in his newer videos. It honestly really frustrates me how a lot of people just see him as an angry ranter who gets way too worked up over everything. Not only has he provided actual logic behind his thinking in the past, but he shows that he's not opposed to growth and knows how to iron out his flaws. I mean, really people, save your anger for when you really need it. This question comes from a user named MissGraceFire30. What do you think of AVGN, PBG, and JonTron? Great, but don't watch him anymore, never watched him, and currently watching him and loving it. This question comes from I Loves Cartoons. Why do you call yourself the Gaming Cat? When I first started making countdowns, I wanted a good countdown title like others have made. You've got things like the Fiery Joker, the Autark of Flame, Fawful's Minion, so I just decided to call myself the Gaming Cat. Do you game primarily on a PC or console? PC. JLW asks, what would happen if Smosh reacted to your Smosh YTP? I would probably squeal like a hyperactive fangirl. Typical Ty asks, do you play TF2? Yes, but not as much anymore. Recently I've been really getting into Heroes of the Storm more and more, which has filled up my online gaming slot. This question comes from a user named Kath Farr. Who do you like better, Cartoon Lover or Emperor Lemon?
Choose?
Emperor Caesar asks, are there going to be more top 10 videos? Probably, but I can't really say when. This question comes from a user named randomguy45. Which episodes of the new SpongeBob seasons are the best, the worst, and the most decent? The best, Tudor Sauce and Lost in Bikini Bottom. The worst, SpongeBob You're Fired and One Course Meal. The most decent, not sure. Michael Mitchell asks, have you considered making an MLP poop? Yeah, but I don't know the source well enough to make a really good one. This question comes from a user named GetWrecked. Do you like Deus Ex Human Revolution? Hell yeah! So far it's one of my favorite games that I've played this year. The funny thing about my past few years of gaming is that out of all of the games I'll end up playing in a year, there will be one in particular that introduces me to a new series that I absolutely fall in love with. In 2012 it was Doom, in 2013 it was Max Payne, in 2014 it was Bayonetta, and in 2015 it looks like it's gonna be Deus Ex. I love the great blending of action elements and RPG elements in these games, and the stories are really well thought out too. Definitely a series I'd recommend to a lot of people. This question comes from Camnarok. What is your favorite hero from Warcraft 3? The Blood Mage. He's got the coolest abilities and the coolest voice. Depressed Luigi92 asks, do you have a Wii U? If so, what games do you own?
These.
GameCube or Wii? Wii. What's 9 plus 10?
25.
Zagios asks, what's your opinion on We Bare Bears? I don't watch it. The Bandit Productions asks, do you play Super Smash Bros. Wii U? If so, who is your main? I do play it as a matter of fact. My main is the Avatar character from Fire Emblem Awakening. 13 Mike Star asks, what is your favorite cartoon? SpongeBob SquarePants. This question comes from Sam Wise. What's the worst cartoon you've ever seen? Ugh, Fanboy and Chum Chum. This next question comes from a user named Sir Octocaz. What are your favorite video game soundtracks? I'm really fond of Michael McConn's works on the soundtracks for Deus Ex Human Revolution and XCOM Enemy Unknown. I also really like the soundtrack for Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon and actually use it as my driving soundtrack. There's also Glenn Stafford and Matt Wellman's works on the soundtracks for the original StarCraft and Diablo, which I still listen to this day. This question comes from Juno Kira Page. What do you think of Steven Universe? I don't watch it. I'm actually kind of the opposite of my friend Cartoon Lover in the way that I watch more live action shows than cartoons. Video Game Apprentice asks, should Viacom exist? Unfortunately, yes. While they do have a really annoying grip on all the things they own, we wouldn't even have those things if it weren't for them. This is another question from Sam Wise. What cartoons or cartoon episodes would you like to see Mr. Enter review? I'd like to see him take a look at Tudor Sauce and Lost in Bikini Bottom. Those are currently being seen as signs of SpongeBob SquarePants turning around for the better, so he might as well strike while the iron's hot. I69 Highway user asks, what's your favorite breakfast food? Wheaties. This Q&A video is brought to you by Wheaties. Another question from Mr. Trollinator. What was your thoughts on Donald Trump's presidential debate speech with the other Republicans? It was pretty much what I expected. Trump making a complete fool of himself and proving that he has no place running this country. That being said, there was one moment in particular that I actually respected him for.
Is there anyone on stage, and can I see hands, who is unwilling tonight to pledge your support to the eventual nominee of the Republican Party and pledge to not run an independent campaign against that person? Raise your hand now if you won't make that pledge tonight. Mr. Trump.
Now, not only do I really like this moment, I actually wish that more politicians had this mindset. The main reason why barely anything's been getting done lately is because the Democratic and Republican parties are constantly at each other's throats about everything and refuse to settle, even if they're rebelling for the wrong reason. The reason for that is because instead of feeling loyal to their country, they instead just place their loyalties with their political party, which isn't a good thing to do. So Trump was basically saying, no, I cannot guarantee that I would support everything someone else would do as president just because they're also Republican. It was pretty surprising, but it actually earned a little bit of respect from me. That being said, he lost that respect pretty quickly with the rest of the debate. This is another question from Camnarok. Have you played any tabletop RPGs? As a matter of fact, yes! Back when I was in middle school, my dad got me into Dungeons & Dragons, and I'd spend a lot of days with my dad leading my ranger or sorcerer through the grand adventure he had lined up for me. Another one I really enjoyed was Heroescape. While it was more of a tabletop wargame than an RPG, it was still a lot of fun to play. It was sadly cancelled several years ago, which is pretty disappointing considering how creative it was. This was a game where you controlled samurai, mechs, Roman legionnaires, Valkyries. Heck, one of the heroes was a World War II soldier with a grappling hook and a magic katana. Even Barney Stinson would look at that guy and admit that he's more awesome than he is. Much more recently, I've been getting into another tabletop war game called Drop Zone Commander. It was only released a few years ago, so there isn't that big of a fan base around it yet, but it definitely has the potential to become really big. Another question by Sir Octokaz. What was your first video game system? The Nintendo GameCube, and the first game I played for it was Star Fox Assault. This next question comes from Dark Sparkish. Have you played Bayonetta 2? Yep, it was my favorite game of 2014, and has definitely taken the place of my personal favorite hack and slash game. I love the graphics, the gameplay, the crazy weapons, the enemy designs, the characters, and especially the main character. We're all used to heroines that have to man up in order to kick ass, so it's pretty cool to see a character who's very female-oriented and sexually expressive while still being able to be an awesome warrior. Honestly, the fiery Joker made a huge mistake in passing up on this game for that reason. Her sexuality is so ridiculous and overblown that it's not like it's morally unsound anyway.
I mean, oh look, her magic is tied to her hair, and her clothes are weaved from her hair as well, so whenever she summons a demon, of course they all come off. Revealing that she's wearing nothing. Nothing at all is covering her sleek, slender body. Nothing at all is touching her except those fine glasses she wears. The only thing that's touching her face, except those lollipops that she sucks and sucks on with a mouth that I'm sure could suck other things as well. Fuck off! Well, my arousal inhibitor just blew up. Gonna have to buy a new one. Now where was I? Alright, Pink Floyd.
Avery Schreiber asks, how would you list Pink Floyd's albums from worst to best? Honestly, I don't feel comfortable calling any of their albums the worst one. Thankfully I won't have to, since I haven't even listened to all their albums. So I'll just list the ones I've heard. Wish You Were Here, A Momentary Lapse of Reason, Dark Side of the Moon, and The Wall. This question comes to us from Reader Gamer Singer. What's your favorite TF2 class? The Sniper. It's just a lot of fun to hang back and pick off the enemies from a distance. Joe Olson asks, what's your least favorite classic SpongeBob episode? Probably Grandma's Kisses. It just has a very harsh tone to it, where it shows people ridiculing SpongeBob just for loving his grandma, then showing him going through more misery when he does give in to peer pressure, and then finally when he learns the moral of the episode, it shows that things haven't improved at all. It just doesn't leave on a satisfying enough note for all that he went through in it. This next question once again comes to us from Mr. Trollinator. Are you MLG, mate? The Game Player 1337 asks, have you ever played Diablo 2? Yes, and I'm sorry to say, it's not only my least favorite Diablo game, it's my least favorite Blizzard game outside of World of Warcraft. I know that there are a lot of people who will disagree, so I'll try to explain this as best as I can. Diablo 2 overall feels like the transitional phase between Diablo's slower-paced horror RPG gameplay and Diablo 3's faster-paced hack-and-slash RPG gameplay, and it just feels awkward overall. The focus on spells and abilities for each class is cool, but switching from ability to ability feels a lot more awkward than it does in Diablo 3, since the F keys aren't as easy to use. The abilities also each end up getting outclassed by more powerful abilities later on, so it feels kind of cheap to be investing in your favorite abilities early on, only for new ones to come along that give you no more reason to keep using them, and basically make the points you've invested in them all for naught. The atmosphere also isn't as effective as it was in Diablo 1, and the soundtrack is a lot less memorable. The only song I can remember is the Rogue Encampment one, which, while still being more songs than I could remember from Diablo 3, just cannot compare with the amazing soundtrack from the original Diablo. And the game is just a lot more tedious, too. Every time you leave the game, the enemies you've killed respawn and you are teleported back to the hub, so if you have a busy life, it'll be a while before you actually get anywhere in the game. In Diablo 3 it was fine because the combat was a lot faster and you got a portal right away that could teleport you back to where you were, but in Diablo 2, neither of those are the case. There are a few aspects about Diablo 2 I liked better. As I said, the abilities for each class were pretty cool, and I like the Necromancer more than the Witch Doctor, but overall I just think it's a pretty weak game. I liked playing through it the first time, but I'm probably never going to play it again. This next question comes from a user named PokeMarioStudio101. Do you watch The Big Bang Theory? Yep. Funny enough, not only did my parents get me into this show, it's actually tied with Modern Family for their favorite show of all time. Life's kinda funny that way. This is another question from Miss Mayer. What do you think of the current state of Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, and Disney Channel? Cartoon Network's doing pretty well, though I don't watch Disney Channel, so I can't say for sure. As for Nick, well...
Watch me, nay, nay. Watch me whip. Kill it. Watch me, nay, nay. Okay. Watch my flip. Now he goes crank, crank. Now do the flip.
Yeah. Reich asks, who do you prefer, Rebel Taxi or the mysterious Mr. Enter? Mr. Enter, since I don't watch Rebel Taxi. This question comes from Kath Farr. What do you think of Teen Titans Go? From what I know, I'm very glad that I've never seen it. Even though I've never been a fan of the original show, every time I see clips of Go, I just feel so sorry for those who are. It feels like I'm watching a child's favorite toy car being run over by someone's truck and then thrown into the river. This question comes from Connor McDevitt. What did you think of Tudor Sauce and Lost in Bikini Bottom? Lost in Bikini Bottom was alright, but Tudor Sauce was actually really good. Definite signs that Stephen Hillenburg's return can change the show for the better. Retarma G asks, do you like Star Wars? If so, what's your favorite episode? Hey, who doesn't like Star Wars? My favorite episode is probably 6. It was a great way of wrapping up the grand trilogy and capped off all the storylines quite nicely. Reader Gamer Singer asks, what do you think of Gravity Falls? I don't watch it. Another question from Joe Olson. You, Wheatley, Bayonetta, SpongeBob, a random FBI agent, and John Oliver are all in the same zombie apocalypse survival group. What do you think will happen? An adventure so awesome and great that it would get its own book series. I mean, with that kind of team, how could you go wrong? This next question comes from Reich. Tips for noobs of video editing? Just try playing around with your editing software and learn how to use it yourself. That's how I did it, and now I know Vegas so much that using it is a function I know just as well as chewing or walking. This next question comes to us from a user named Physicist. Do you want to continue as far as you can and go from there, or keep pooping as a hobby? Hey, I've come this far already, so I see no reason to slow down. I want to reach for the stars and not stop there. I want to accomplish all I can and even more. Because that's how I've gotten to where I am now, by striving to do what I once thought was impossible and finding new ways to improve myself. And as long as I do that, I think I'll be able to keep this going for quite some time. I've made quite the name for myself in this world, and I like what I am. I'm not going to stop until I've done all I can. The final question here comes from Mr. Trollinator. If you were to die right now, what would your last words be?
Wait, what? But I haven't even finished the video!